In Darwin's day, early paleobotany was just beginning, and people really didn't understand the fossil record, and they didn't understand where to go or how to look for flower fossils. Flowers usually don't form fossils readily because they lack really hard structures, and so flower fossils are not that common.
Mm.
Do you have additional comments on flower fossils and the frustration that they left during Darwin's time?
Yeah, Darwin was frustrated because evidence of flowering plants didn't really start in the fossil record until the tertiary period. Today we would say geologically that's about 65 to 70 million years ago. We often call this the age of mammals because that's what we are. We should really call it the age of flowering plants because suddenly, as if magically, the fossil record shows remains of fruits, remains of seeds and nuts, and lots of good deposits of fossil pollen that obviously show all the characters of coming from flowering plants. What can we say? The 19th century was a wonderful century for living plant study. It was a very bad century for fossil study. That's quite different in the 20th century. In the last 30 years, we've had some spectacular flowering plant fossils, and that has totally changed the nature of how we regard the origin of flowering plants. For a long time, everyone thought, well, that's just the way it is. Flowers are too soft, they're too fragile, we're not going to get any decent fossils beyond the tertiary period. We're just going to have to live with it. The abominable mystery would stay abominable. And then, about 30 years ago, people started removing fossils from unexpected parts of the world. One came from the Negev desert in what today is parts of Israel. And then as people moved into the fossil beds of China, they began to find some really extraordinary things. And then a place in Australia, in southeastern Australia called East Gippsland, yielded a very interesting fossil. The trouble is, of course, some of these fossils laid in museums for decades until people decided to have a look at them. The Gippsland fossil, which looks like a little vine with tiny little female flowers on it, it's about 120 million years old, 110 to 120 million years old. When somebody looked at it, they dismissed it. They thought it was just a little moss and not a flowering plant at all. It's not a matter of finding a flowering plant fossil, it's knowing specifically what to look for. The earliest fossils of flowers are tiny things, pinheads, and if you're not willing to look at these things under great magnification, you're going to miss an awful lot of details. What has this actually given us? It's extended the age of flowering plants back into the Cretaceous. Flowering plants appeared during the last great age of dinosaurs. The oldest specimen currently was apparently growing in a swamp in what today is northeastern China. It's been placed at about 123 million years old, which means it's relatively early Cretaceous.